David, you are under arrest for conspiracy, corporate sabotage, forgery, and criminal intimidation. You rejected me. You made me feel invisible. I wanted you to feel that pain.
David, rejection hurts. I understand that. But pain is never permission to destroy innocent people.
Have you ever loved someone who never loved you back? Most people cry, accept reality, and move on. But some people turn rejection into revenge. And when revenge becomes an obsession, it no longer destroys just one person. It destroys everyone standing nearby. What you're about to hear isn't just a story about fashion. It isn't just a story about friendship. It is a story about how one man's wounded pride almost destroyed two families. A friendship that had survived for years. A marriage built on trust. A thriving business. And the dreams of countless innocent people. I still remember the look on David's face the night the police finally placed handcuffs on his wrists. Not because he looked afraid, but because, for the very first time, he realized revenge had cost him everything. Yet the truth is, that night didn't begin at the fashion gala. No, the story began 8 years earlier, in the bustling heart of Lagos, Nigeria. The Lagos fashion industry has never been an easy place to succeed. Every street is filled with dreamers. Young designers carrying sketchbooks under their arms, tailors working late into the night, fashion houses competing for attention, models rushing from one casting to another. In a city where talent alone isn't enough, only the determined survive. Among those rising stars, two women stood out from everyone else. Their names were Celine and Martha. People rarely mentioned one name without the other. They were more than business partners. They were sisters by choice. The kind of friendship that made people believe genuine loyalty still existed. They had started with almost nothing. One tiny rented shop, a few sewing machines, bundles of Ankara fabric stacked against the wall, long nights without sleep, days when there wasn't enough money to pay their staff. Yet somehow, they never stopped believing. Whenever one became discouraged, the other reminded her why they started. Whenever one wanted to quit, the other refused to let her. Together, they slowly built one of Lagos's fastest-growing fashion brands. Their showroom became famous for elegant African couture that blended tradition with luxury. Customers traveled from different states just to buy their designs. It wasn't unusual to see wealthy brides waiting weeks for a wedding gown, or celebrities competing for their latest collections. The atmosphere inside CM Couture was always alive. Machines hummed continuously. Designers measured fabrics. Staff rushed between fitting rooms. Customers admired beautifully handcrafted gowns displayed on elegant mannequins. One sunny afternoon, the showroom was especially busy. A customer slowly walked around the display area, gently touching the embroidery on an evening gown. She looked amazed. "I've never seen craftsmanship like this before," she said. Celine smiled warmly. "Thank you. We don't just sew clothes. We create confidence." Martha laughed softly. "And every stitch carries a piece of our heart." The customer smiled. "I can tell." Minutes later, another sale, then another, then another. By closing time, nearly every new design had been sold. Martha looked at the day's sales report and burst into laughter. "Celine! We've sold out again!" Celine dropped her pencil and threw her hands into the air. "We did it!" The two friends hugged tightly before laughing like excited schoolgirls. Neither of them cared about who received the credit. If one succeeded, the other celebrated. That was their promise. And they truly believed nothing could ever separate them. If only they had known. Someone had already begun watching from a distance. His name was David. David was handsome, successful, confident, the owner of a growing import business. Whenever he entered the showroom, many women noticed him immediately. But David noticed only one person, Celine. The first time he asked her out, she declined politely. "I'm sorry, David," she said with a gentle smile. "I'm very busy." David simply smiled. "No problem. I'll ask again." And he did. Again and again. Flowers, chocolate, dinner invitations, luxury gifts. He tried everything. Meanwhile, standing quietly in the background, Martha watched every encounter. She never interrupted, never complained, never admitted the truth hidden inside her own heart. She liked David very much, but she knew David never looked at her the way he looked at Celine, so she buried her feelings. Some loves are never spoken aloud, not because they aren't real, but because friendship sometimes matters more. One afternoon, David arrived carrying an expensive bouquet of red roses. The receptionist smiled knowingly. "Madame Celine, Mr. David is here again." The staff exchanged amused glances. Everyone already knew why he had come. David approached confidently. "Good afternoon, Celine." She smiled politely. "Good afternoon." He held out the flowers. "I know you've refused me before, but I refuse to believe someone like you should spend every evening working." She laughed politely. "I'm afraid fashion doesn't give me many free evenings." "So, dinner tonight?" Celine shook her head gently. "I'm sorry. I can't." David tried again. "What about tomorrow?" She sighed. "David, my answer won't change." Still, he refused to understand. Weeks passed, then months, until one afternoon, everything changed. David arrived unexpectedly while Celine was supervising a fitting session. He stopped her near the entrance. "Celine, we need to talk." She looked tired. "David, I'm working. It'll only take a minute." He stepped closer. "I've done everything. I've been patient. I've respected you. So tell me, why won't you give me a chance?" The showroom suddenly became quiet. Even the sewing machines seemed to fade into the background. Celine looked directly into his eyes. Then she answered honestly, "Because I don't love you." The words landed like a heavy stone. David forced a smile. "So? There's another man?" She slowly shook her head. "No, I simply don't feel the same way." Silence for several long seconds. Neither of them spoke. Finally, Celine took one deep breath. "David, please stop pursuing me. I respect you, but you deserve someone who truly loves you. And that person isn't me." Without another word, she walked back inside. David remained standing alone. From outside, he still looked calm. He even smiled slightly. But inside, something dangerous had begun to grow. A wound to his pride that he refused to heal. As he walked toward his car, he whispered words no one else heard. "One day, you'll regret rejecting me." Little did he know, destiny wasn't preparing Celine for regret. It was preparing her for greatness.
Life has an interesting way of changing overnight. Sometimes, one phone call, one opportunity, one decision can completely rewrite a person's destiny. Only a few days after David's painful rejection, that opportunity arrived. It was an ordinary afternoon inside CM Couture. Customers filled the showroom. Staff hurried from one fitting room to another. The sound of sewing machines blended with cheerful conversations. Then, Celine's phone rang. She almost ignored it. "I'll call back later," she whispered, but something told her to answer. "Hello?" A calm female voice spoke from the other end. "Good afternoon, Miss Celine." My name is Sophie Laurent from the Paris International Fashion Academy. We're pleased to inform you that your portfolio has been selected for our Global Fashion Excellence Program. For a moment, the entire world seemed to stand still. Celine couldn't speak. She simply covered her mouth with both hands. I'm sorry. Could you please repeat that? The woman smiled. We would like to invite you to Paris. Your scholarship has been fully approved. You'll be studying alongside some of the world's finest designers. Tears immediately filled Celine's eyes. This has always been my dream. When the call ended, she stood frozen, still staring at her phone. Martha noticed. Celine, what happened? Without saying a word, Celine handed her the acceptance letter. Martha read the first few lines, then screamed so loudly that every customer inside the showroom turned around. You got it! You actually got it! The two friends hugged each other tightly. Both of them were crying. Not tears of sadness, but tears born from years of sacrifice, years of sleeping inside the workshop, years of believing when no one else believed in them. After the excitement settled, silence slowly replaced the celebration. Reality had finally arrived. Paris wasn't Abuja. It wasn't Ghana. It wasn't a short business trip. It meant leaving Nigeria, leaving the business, leaving her best friend. That evening, the two women sat quietly inside the showroom after every employee had gone home. The lights were almost off. Only one sewing machine remained beside them. Martha broke the silence. So, it's really happening? Celine nodded slowly. I'm scared. Martha smiled. So am I. They both laughed. Then Celine reached for Martha's hand. I wouldn't even be here without you. You've carried this dream with me from the beginning. Martha squeezed her hand tightly. And now, you'll carry both our dreams. Celine shook her head. No, our dream. I'll learn everything I can. And one day, I'll come home. We'll build something Nigeria has never seen before. Martha smiled through her tears. I believe you. The following weeks passed quickly. The showroom became busier than ever. Customers came to congratulate Celine. Television stations interviewed her. Young designers visited simply to wish her well. Even people who had once doubted her suddenly claimed they had always believed in her. That is the strange thing about success. Many people celebrate the victory, but few remember the struggle. Finally, departure day arrived. Murtala Muhammad International Airport buzzed with travelers. Announcements echoed through the terminal. Suitcases rolled across polished floors. Families hugged each other tightly. Martha stood beside Celine. Neither woman wanted to say goodbye. After everything they had survived together, this was the hardest moment of all. Martha smiled bravely. When you become famous, don't forget Lagos. Celine laughed. Forget Lagos? I could never. Martha looked into her friend's eyes. And don't forget me. Celine immediately embraced her. I could never forget the woman who built this dream with me. No matter where I go, you'll always be family. The final boarding announcement echoed through the airport. Celine wiped away her tears. Then she picked up her suitcase. As she walked toward the departure gate, she turned around one last time. Martha waved, trying to smile. But the tears refused to stop. Minutes later, the aircraft slowly lifted into the sky. From the airport window, Martha watched until it disappeared into the clouds. She whispered quietly, Go make us proud. Thousands of kilometers away, Paris welcomed Celine with a cold autumn breeze. Everything felt different. The language, the streets, the architecture, even the smell of freshly baked bread drifting from nearby cafes. For a brief moment, she felt completely alone. But dreams rarely grow inside comfortable places. The first few weeks weren't easy. She struggled with the language, missed Nigerian food, missed home, missed Martha. There were nights she cried quietly inside her apartment, wondering if she had made the right decision. Then, everything changed. On her first design review, the Academy's senior instructor walked slowly around the room, examining every student's work. He stopped in front of Celine's sketchbook. He didn't speak. For several seconds, he simply stared. Finally, he looked up. "Who designed this?" "I did," Celine answered nervously. The instructor smiled. This isn't ordinary talent." Several students gathered around. One whispered, "She's incredible." Another quietly said, "I've never seen African couture presented like this." For the first time since arriving in Paris, Celine realized she truly belonged there. From that day forward, her reputation grew quickly. She worked harder than everyone else. While others rested, she practiced. While others slept, she sketched. Every collection became stronger than the last. Fashion magazines began mentioning her name. Luxury brands invited her to collaborate. International buyers requested appointments months in advance.
Then came the night that changed everything.